twentyonepilots today released a new video on their YouTube channel entitled I Am Torchbearer. This is the companion piece to the I Am Clancy video that they released back in 2024. That video was released obviously before Overcompensate, which started the Clancy era, and this video is going to be, or has been released, before the release of City Walls, which is going to end the lore, probably. It's going to be the last lore video. Or certainly it will be the lore video that holds the end of the story. So there's a couple different things I wanted to touch upon in this video. Let's watch through the entire thing. I'm going to stop in certain places. Hopefully all of you have seen this before.
He is trapped, stuck in a cycle he has not yet been able to break. But I believe that this is the last time. It has to be. Dema, a circular cement city in the lower portion of an otherwise wild and green continent. Trench. Every single one.
The first interesting thing about this is that it very much is the flip side of the I Am Clancy video. As you might expect, given the title of the video being I Am Torchbearer instead of I Am Clancy. But even the way it's worded very similar to how Clancy worded his. You know, describing Dema in the same way, a cement circular city in a land that is otherwise filled with a vast and wilderness of trench, or something like that. I'm not quoting it exactly, but it's interesting to see that kind of flipped dichotomy. And that's one of my favorite things about this video, is it gives us a perspective on the lore, and it's kind of mostly everything that we've seen before already, but just from a fresh perspective. Some reckon we'll get an I Am Blurryface video. That would be very cool.
One of us were citizens of Dema once, but we escaped. Most of us narrowly avoiding Nico and his ever-watchful bishops.
Okay, one thing. This shot here, I went back and I looked at the Levitate
Most of us narrowly
music video. And I didn't see this shot anywhere. So it very much seems to me like this probably is some of the new footage from City Walls. Now there's a couple of shots like this. I think this is the most explicit. But there's a couple of other shots that I'll try to point out as we go through if I notice them explicitly, that seem to be, while not wholly new, expanded upon scenes that we've seen before. Now, there could be two reasons why that is. A shot like this that I really couldn't find anywhere seems to be brand new. And we know they're refilming stuff. They're filming things for flashbacks or whatever. But they also could have, for instance, at the time of filming Nico and the Niners, filmed more footage. In fact, they obviously did this. Filmed more footage than ended up in the final music video for Nico and the Niners. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a mixture of new recreated scenes and old footage that was never used originally to build out some of these shots for longer. For instance, in the Nico and the Niners music video, we see the Torchbearer and the Banditos traveling through a tunnel to get into Trench. But we don't see them for very long. We kind of see these flash snippets of them as they're moving through. But then in this video, as we'll get to in a moment, we see a longer segment of them traveling. And I think we've already seen a bit of that here a moment ago. I mean, for instance, even this shot. It's hard to say that this isn't a shot that we've seen before in something like Levitate or Nico and the Niners, but it's not quite reminiscent of something we've exactly seen before, and it goes on slightly longer than a lot of those shots
Most of it.
So it either could be a completely brand new piece of footage that they've been filming for City Walls, or just old footage that they never used originally for the Trench trilogy. This could be Levitate. Exactly. These shots definitely seem like they're from that Levitate video moment in the story.
Us narrowly avoiding Nico and his ever-watchful bishops. They govern the city with the seizing power and this hijacked religion, one feeding the other.
One thing that's interesting, this is a very small detail, but if I'm not mistaken, in the I Am Clancy video, Clancy says they govern the city with two things: a miraculous power and a hijacked religion. And the Torchbearer says they govern with the seizing power and a hijacked religion. And I think it's interesting. It's a subtle detail, and it's not hugely significant, but it's an interesting look into how these two different segments of the rebellion look at dema. Those citizens inside the city view this power as miraculous because that's what they're preached it is by the bishops of Vialism. Those outside colloquially refer to it as the seizing power, even though I think the technical term is psychokinesis, the power of psychokinesis. Not a big deal, but it's something, it's part of what makes this video so great, is that it's everything we've seen before, but just with a twist. It's a very subtle twist that speaks volumes to how the Banditos see everything.
It keeps their citizens in a cycle, in shackles. We see that now.
Oh, one other thing. Just listen to that again.
Shackles. Keeps their citizens in a cycle, in shackles.
It keeps their citizens in a cycle. Not one citizen, not Clancy specifically, but all the citizens are trapped in a cycle. And I'm not sure that we've seen that laid out and mentioned before. And it's kind of significant. Because for a while, I think we've kind of instinctively been operating under the assumption that it's really only Clancy who's stuck in the cycle. He's the exception, and he's the one who's stuck going through these cycles trying to escape. But here, the Torchbearer is saying that all their citizens are stuck in this cycle. It is the power of seizing, the power of vialism, and this hijacked religion that keeps all the citizens trapped
in shackles. We see that now from the outside looking in. But as banditos, we are banished, forced to stay out, which we do, well, most of the time.
I'll let that play a little longer because it's a great moment. Let's go back to this.
From the outside looking in, but as banditos, we are banished.
This struck me as the most significant part of this video, the most significant piece of information that we hadn't previously received. We didn't see this in the Am Clancy video. We haven't seen this discussed or explored in the lore so far. The idea that the banditos are banished. They're not rebels hiding away from the bishops. They're not allowed back by the bishops. And it's very interesting that that would be the case. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this has been discussed before. Maybe everyone knew about this. But this was a surprise to me. I had missed this detail if we've seen it before. And it's very interesting. Because why would the bishops constantly trying to bring back this one particular person so with such dedication, much less a whole group of people? Why would they just allow them, and not just allow them to be free, not want them back? The bishops who try so hard to keep everyone inside, track down and bring back anyone who escapes. Why would they allow, and not just allow, why would they force a group of their citizens to never return? It's interesting. I'm not sure that we have an answer. Bishops know the banditos are more powerful. See, that's kind of the implication. That there's something about the way in which they broke the cycle so fully to escape and become banditos, that to allow them in, to allow them back, would be a net danger to the city more than it would be a net benefit, a net positive of having them back as available vessels, as future members of the Glorious Gone.
We are banished, forced to stay out.
They're forced to stay out. They're not at risk of being captured and forced to stay in. They're forced to stay out.
Which we do, well, most of the time. Why go back in? Yeah, I'm asked that a lot. We go back in for him. For Clancy. Somehow.
So, someone asked a second ago, after watching this video, do you think it supports or disproves the theory I put out yesterday? And I think this segment that we just watched supports at least part of my theory, of my idea. The Torchbearer leads the banditos back into Dema because he knows that Clancy is important. And Clancy is the one that they were trying to get out in Nico and the Niners. They may have been trying, and the letters from Clancy's journal implied that they were trying to get more than just Clancy out, more citizens free of dema. But even if Clancy was the only one they got out, like it seems was the case, appears to be the case in the Nico and the Niners music video, that's okay because Clancy was the main one they were trying to free.
He's an exception to their rule, and this time he trusts us. We need him to break the cycle. We've taught him our colors. He has the power to fight, and we have the plan in place.
So here we're getting into, once again, a bit of a time warp discrepancy. Clearly, things are not being released in chronological order. So we got Paladin Street, then we got the Clancy tour, and with the Clancy tour, we got a bunch of these letters. And the letters, which I talked through in another video, very much seem to imply that the battle has already been fought and won. That exists in a post-City Walls era. At the time, we didn't know the contract or City Walls were coming out. So it's interesting that those letters came out, and now we're getting, and then we got the contract, and now we're getting this. And he's talking about the plan is in place. We're about to set the plan in motion. But I thought we've seen the plan being set in motion. I thought we've seen the plan coming to fruition already. So that implies either this is set before Paladin Street, or we haven't even begun to see what this plan is that they're going to put into action. Right? The plan hasn't started, or hasn't really. We're just in the very first stages of it. And so that's why they keep talking about the plan. The plan's about to happen. And this is all the Torchbearer's plan, as we see reiterated and reconfirmed time and again throughout the letters, and obviously in the song A Car, a Torch, a Death as well. Where is this situated in the timeline? I mean, presumably he didn't write this in the middle of Paladin Street and the contract. Right, he didn't take a break from fighting all the undead vessels to sit down and write I Am Torchbearer.
We have the plan in place. I am Torchbearer, and I will not give up on him.
Hello, Clancy.
That snippet of City Walls at the end? Let's just listen to this again.
I am Torchbearer, and I will not give up on him.
That promise there is quite significant, given the letters that we've seen. Because we've seen the Torchbearer writing a letter pleading to Clancy that he would not forget his origins, not become corrupted by power, or not forget those, the banditos, that have fought alongside him. And then we get a letter from Clancy saying, well, I'm going to become a bishop, an absolute ruler. I'm going to be this symbol of absolute power and hope for the citizens, which seems to kind of say, you know what, I'm not going to do what you want, Mr. Torchbearer, right? But he says, the Torchbearer says here, I'm going to support him no matter what. I'm never going to let him down. I'm going to trust him and make sure he gets through this time because he is our only hope. All right, let's listen to this teaser one more time, if you don't mind.
Hello, Clancy.
Sounds great. I don't know if you already said, but can you notice that Josh's video is written down while Clancy's video is on a typewriter? Yeah, so thank you for that reminder. Almost didn't touch upon this. There is a noticeable, I mean, obviously these are, right, two different perspectives of the lore, as I was talking about. And Clancy's is very much kind of a cold, stark narrative of like, okay, here's dema, and here's what happened, and here's what I'm going to do. And it's written on a typewriter. The video is much more black and white themed in terms of this portion of it, right? We have like cold metal bars cycling over the page. Whereas here we have warm light from a torch or a campfire, handwritten note, and it's much more about the hope that we have in this rebellion, right? The importance of who Clancy is, why we need him, why he's our friend, why we need to get him out. And it's less really about the story. It's less factual. And it's much more about, I suppose, the character in the story, and also kind of just the driving forces behind what the Banditos and the Torchbearer are doing and why they're doing what they're doing. Overall, a very interesting video. And one last thing that I wanted to say about this video is, can we all appreciate how great the music is in this? I don't think they will, but it'd be great if they would release the track for this separately. I was curious to see what they were going to do for the music, because the I'm Clancy video had that portion of the Ned's Cozy Fireplace remix lo-fi thing. They had part of the Outside as the track for I'm Clancy, but we haven't gone to anything like that, so I was curious if they were going to pull from that or do something new or do the Torchbearer theme. But the Torchbearer theme itself, from what we've gotten, didn't seem like it'd be long enough. It would be a bit too repetitive. But they gave us this. It's like an expanded version of the Torchbearer theme. It might even be exactly what was playing during the concert. I only remember hearing that part of the Torchbearer theme that also plays during the contract, but it might have been this entire expanded piece. But it's great. It's fantastic. Great video. Great score. Very excited